Welcome to the Big Time Thinking Podcast. This content is brought to you by taking thousands of arrows right in the back and doing something about it. Quit winking at girls in the dark.
Get them to sign on the line which is dotted.
And get ready to scale your sales, your dealership, your business, your life, your family, and your friends with Big Time Thinking.
Put that coffee down. Coffee's for closers only.
Without further ado, here is the founder and CEO of Big Time Advertising, Terry McCauley.
Oh, have I got your attention now?
Buckle up. Reality starts right fucking now.
All right, here we go. Podcast Monday, Big Time Thinking. Great topic today. I'm in a good mood, ready to rock and roll. I've been hammering coffee for the last 2 hours. Got up early today, got a workout in, so just feeling great. And this morning wasn't sure what I was going to have as a topic for our podcast today, but as I was working out and on the drive home, I started thinking about what I wanted to talk about, and got a great topic because I think it's an important one. It's one that applies to my own business all the time. While my ad agency, Big Time Advertising and Marketing, has only been around for 4 years this month, celebrating our 4th year in business with tremendous growth. We're excited to really envision our future, but there's ways to keep growing, and I'll get into this for today's topic. Basically, I'm going to talk about that you can't shrink your way into greatness. Okay, so you can't shrink your company into greatness. So Terry, what in the hell are you talking about? So we're going to spend some time talking about that. But what I'm talking about is, in my opinion, too many companies out there, even the new entrepreneurs and the ones that have been around forever, they spend too much time and energy on trying to grow their bottom line growth versus their top line. So what's the difference between top line and bottom line growth, right? Top line growth is gross revenue sales. Are we growing? Are we getting more customers? Is that number growing? Versus bottom line growth, which would be net profit after expenses, right? So you cut expenses, you cut employees, there's ways to control net profit, how much you make at the end of the day that you're taking home and putting in the bank. Now I understand that what you make, your profit, is long term, right? And it certainly is long term, but you can't expense your way into prosperity. You can't. Okay, you can't shrink your way into greatness. And I want you to spend some thought there. Think about that. Whatever it is you're doing in your life, with your family, your friends, but most importantly, your dealership and or your business. You cannot, guys, I promise you, shrink your way into greatness. I've said this all the time to dealers that I call on, and when I'm consulting them, there's only 2 types of dealers, and you've got to decide where you're at. There's only 2. Okay, and it can change every single day. It can change every month. It can change every quarter, and it can certainly change every year. But you're only one of 2 dealerships or businesses. One, you're a growing and thriving business and dealer, or you're a shrinking and declining and going out of business dealer or business. Now think about that. Okay, that's pretty wide. I get it, but let's say that again. There's only 2 types of dealers. One that is growing and thriving, or one that is decreasing and declining. That's it. You only fall into one of 2 categories. Okay? The game's that simple, and it is a game. It's a W versus a loss, a win versus a loss. And the win can happen daily. I come right back to it. You're going to hear me say it over and over. What's the difference between a rut and a grave? The depth. You got to get moving either way. So if you're a business that sales have declined for 1 month, you're declining. Look in the mirror and say, no, we're a declining business at the moment. I've got to turn that around. Every time our agency has lost a dealership, I don't really share it publicly. Everybody tries to stay calm and say, hey, no big deal, we're good. But I'm pissed because my revenue, I know gross revenue is going to drop, okay? Versus I got to go replace it with 2 more accounts so that at the end of the month, I can look in the mirror and say I am a growing and thriving agency, not one that's declining and struggling. because that's the only two type of businesses. But you cannot shrink your way into greatness, okay? And I see and hear this a lot, and I think you need to spend some time there and consider your own business and what you guys spend the majority of your energy doing. If all you're ever talking about, and you devote more time and energy to bottom line growth, in example, trimming expenses, scaling back operations, reducing services to customers, reducing employees, what does that sound like to you? Just say exactly what I just said again. Say it to yourself. Today we're going to talk about trimming expenses. We're going to talk about scaling back our operations a little bit so we can become more profitable. We're going to talk about reducing services to customers, and we're going to reduce some employees. Okay? Does that sound like a thriving and growing business? Okay, now don't get me wrong. I'm not saying expenses shouldn't be controlled. I'm not saying sometimes we make bad decisions, but I would prefer to work and thrive in a business or dealer that is not afraid to throw it out there in the discussion of trying to grow business, right? There's nothing wrong with a dealer that says, you know what, we're going to have a huge tent sale, and we're going to spend a little more, and we're going to try to grow our customer base. You may fail and fall on your face and not sell as many, and the guy in the corner who's the naysayer is going to tell you, see, look at all that money you wasted. You could have just sold that, not doing it. But what they're not quantitating is even if you didn't sell today, how many people are going to talk about it tomorrow because you reached out. And at the end of the day, isn't that what big time thinking is and wanting to be bigger? We're going after more. We're not going to sit still and reduce and say, hey, look how profitable I am. So, and too many new entrepreneurs, especially those that are just starting out, they start out trying to drive profit and profit margins too early. Now, the reason I focus on top line revenue versus profit is that I believe you can always drive your profits eventually. Okay? Even I can grow my gross revenue, say, all right, man, we're thriving right now. God, if I just cut this, and I can sit around and not travel for a month, or I can do some small things and I can make the profit go up. Okay? But you can't sit around and grow your business. You can't shrink it into greatness. So that's why I focus on top line revenue. I tend to always want to innovate and be ahead of the market because that's where growth happens. I got to respect the importance of selling the year we live in right now. Let's go sell right now. Okay? We're not going to shrink expenses and then we'll be healthy 2 years down the road as an organization. No, we're going to go sell right now. We're going to do whatever it takes to sell, and we're going to go after it. And when we sell more, we are a growing and thriving company. Okay? Here, you don't believe me? Look at Wall Street. Take a look at it, right? How long did it take for Amazon to ever make a profit? Forever. But why were people investing in it? Because they kept growing their top line revenue. Because they know that's a business that's growing. Eventually, you can control the expenses and you become profitable. You can figure that out. What you can't figure out is sitting around hoping you have customers because you're not growing it and focusing on top line growth. You've got to focus on top line growth. I know my audio guy hates when I take my fist and hit my hand because it makes a pop in the mic, but that's how animated I get sitting here. So I know I got to run fast and grab as many customers as I can while I'm still ahead of the game. Okay, someone asked me when I first started this ad agency, and I still carry it with me internally, and I ask myself this all the time. Some people still ask it, how big do you want your ad agency to become? Well, I don't know the answer. Like, there's no such thing. In my opinion, there's no limit on how big it could be. Well, don't you just want to sit where you're profitable and you make $100,000 a year? Nope, I don't. I'm not in this for my income. I'm in it because I love it. I'm in it because I'm competitive. I'm in it because I'm good at it. I'm in it because it's my passion. And you guys out there, if you're not passionate about what you're doing, we've talked about that. If you don't whistle on your way to work, you need to consider looking for another job. Okay? You know, I did the same thing a lot of you might be doing when you first start out. You're chasing your income. Man, if I could just make 50 grand. Man, if I could just make 60 grand. Same in business. When you're chasing profit, it never will show up. But if you chase excellence, you chase going after it, going after the big dream, guys, I promise you, I'm looking up and going, is this all mine? Like, have I really earned this? You guys are going to pay me this? Like, and the numbers become pretty exciting. You can't shrink your way into greatness. We've got to learn to focus on top line growth. We want to increase productivity, expand our operations, create new profit centers. We want to create jobs. Now, doesn't that sound like a dealer you want to work for? Or do you want to go sit in on the meeting that's going to talk about how to trim expenses, scale back operations, reduce service to customers, and reduce employees? Or do you want to sit in on the meeting? Today we're going to talk about how we can increase our productivity and get more out there, how we can deliver more ads, how we can get more phone calls, how we can get more emails to our customers, how we can take more ups, right? Or we discuss how we're going to expand our operations. Guys, we're going to open up a bigger BDC center so we can support the stuff you're doing. We're going to create some new profit centers. We also got a new product we're going to try. Oh, but the product's not profitable. We're already profitable. Well, again, you can't shrink your way into greatness. You've got to want to go after top line growth, folks. That's where that's where you're going to take off and have flight. Don't get me wrong. I get it. You do have to focus on and spend some time and not be foolish, right? That's what I'm trying to say. You don't want to be foolish with expenses, right? But if you're just someone who sits around and is a bean counter, go be a bean counter and get the hell out of the way of innovators and people who grow businesses. Okay? All the great ones, they go get it. You can't shrink your way into greatness, guys. I'm going to keep saying it over and over. Bottom line growth, it will not deliver the competitive advantage you need in the long term, right? Because most everyone has gotten better at cutting costs the past few years. We're all getting better. There's so many more tools out there to help us cut costs. But listen, if you want the competitive edge, you got to focus on the long term, right? I've had podcasts on this before, previously, talking about more leads. People saying, oh, we don't want more leads. We just want to be better at closing the ones we're closing. Well, yeah, you want to be better at closing a higher percentage of them, but we want more leads because that's top line growth. If I get more leads every month, guess what happens? Hey, your closing ratio sucks. That's fine. But do I sell more than you? Yeah. Well, then listen, how's my dust taste? Because you're eating it. Okay? And that's the passion you got to have, right? Yeah, I get it. Cutting jobs is hard work and managing that stuff. But you know what? Creating jobs, that's fucking genius, right? Those are the guys we applaud. The guy that creates the jobs, not the ones that cut them. So which one are you? I want to create jobs, right? I've sat in on my Vistage 20 group meetings and other dealers are like, oh man, how many employees you got now? Be careful, you don't want too many employees. What the fuck are you talking about? Yeah, I get it. You don't want too many employees. They're expensive. They're not expensive. Every time I add an employee, my business just grew, right? Hopefully I'm hiring the right person who's going to make my business better because I grow businesses through people, right? And sales. Those are people I'm selling. So I'm getting fired up because it's so true. But it's, again, when you're spending your time on how it will eventually affect the competitive market advantage in the marketplace, you got to ask yourself, are you spending your time there? And so then I thought to myself, I better jot down a few points, and I came up with 3 that I want you to consider, right? These are points that can help stimulate your thinking into big-time thinking on growing your business and or dealer, not just cutting it or maintaining it. Talk about snooze alert, right? Let's just maintain our business. And I've given this thought. I think that's why I've always enjoyed being at a dealer that I've grown, and I've done it, right? Grown dealers exponentially. Now I'm growing an agency. Where you will lose me is when we're just all going to maintain and sit still and not keep growing. I'm bored. I'm out. I'm checking out. Right? You guys go maintain and tell me how it is. I'm going to go hang out with the creators and the innovators. And you need more of those in your organization and your dealer. Quit limiting the ability of people to go be a top-line growth person. If you're the bean counter and that's where you fall, that's fine. We need you. We need somebody to keep score while the ball players are out there playing ball. Right? You think a baseball player goes, oh my God, I got out. My average just dropped to 276. Fuck no. They get up there and they hit and they compete. And at the end of the season, they look at what the bean counters told them how they did. And if their average was better, then guess what? They make more money. Our businesses are no different than sports. Okay, so I came up with a couple things that I want you to consider and points that really will stimulate your thinking on helping you grow your business, not just cutting it. But the one is that many times businesses have to seek bottom line growth to grow company profits because they've spent insufficient time bringing about new innovation. So what am I saying? So basically, when businesses spend too much time trying to incrementally grow their operations, they aren't spending enough time to reinventing it and blowing it up, right? And creating new opportunities for endeavor. So what I'm trying to say is number one, incrementalism kills innovation. Okay? When we say, oh, let's not grow too fast, what are you talking about? What do you mean? I'd rather solve the problem of growing too fast than trying to grow it incrementally and then it never fucking happens. So that's what I'm saying. Incrementalism will kill innovation, right? Yes, we have to seek bottom line growth so we can afford the things we want. I get it. But when businesses spend too much time trying to do it incrementally, they're not spending enough time reinventing it. Sometimes you got to reinvent what you're doing. You got to make your product better so that you can blow it up and create new opportunities for the entire dealership or business. So what does incrementalism do? It creates myopic thinking. Okay? So when I talk about myopic thinking, right, we're talking about nearsighted, right? We lack imagination, foresight, or what we call intellectual insight, okay? Big time thinking, which is what we're after, is thinking outside the box. It's thinking about top line growth so that we don't become myopic. That's what I want you to remember. That's point number one. Incrementalism will absolutely kill innovation. Innovative companies, they thrive and grow. Think about it. Give it some thought. Ask yourself, what is your business or dealer spending more time? Are you trying to do things too incrementally, or are you trying to blow it up? Try to blow it up and watch what happens. Just give it a real shot. And don't try it for 1 week, 1 month. Oh, we lost money, bottom line sucked. No, dig in and go get it. All right? Here, I'm trying to lose weight. I've mentioned that. Imagine if your weight loss program was like you trying to cut costs. Well, you know what? I didn't lose much weight this month, so it didn't work. Right? No, you got to go after it. You got to blow it up. You got to go get the membership to the gym. You got to buy more expensive food so you eat healthier. You got to spend more time, which time is money. But guess what? The bottom line results, they take care of themselves when you blow it up. You can't go incrementally. It's all in, all the time, and that's how you're going to have the one of two businesses we want. The one we want is one that's growing and thriving, as opposed to the one that's cutting, declining, and eventually going out of business. So the second point I was thinking about as we talked about this topic that that I think is a great one, and you can tell it's got me fired up, but sometimes companies level off and stop growing for one simple reason. They fail to mix learning with forgetting. Okay? So this is an interesting. I thought this was really profound if I don't say this to myself. Sometimes we got to forget. While learning is important, we all want to do this, oh, let's learn something that we need to do to get better. But I would say sometimes forgetting may even be more so. Sometimes we just got to forget a failure, right? Sometimes we forget how important forgetting is. So what's something we need to forget? I hate the term, that's how it's always been done around here. How things get done. That's always a killer for an organization. I hate when I hear an organization go, well, that's the way we've always done it. Well, sometimes we need to forget the way we've always done it if our business is shrinking and declining. Maybe we need to think of a new way. We've got to innovate. Just like I told you, we don't want incremental growth. So sometimes to get out of that myopic thinking, we've got to forget how things have always been done, right? So sometimes we need to forget what the rules are supposed to be. Sometimes rules are great. You guys that are leaders of organizations, if you're a CEO, COO, if you're a general manager of an organization at a dealership, sales manager, yes, you've got to have rules because they set the guideline, right? And they may make good logic in your mind, but sometimes when you sit down with your people, they're not good sense. And so you've got to decide what is good sense for your business or dealer and what isn't, right? So if it's not good sense, sometimes you got to forget the rule and overcome it, right? One of my favorite lessons from Billy Budd, the short story Billy Budd, is the only just law is one that's capable of being overruled, right? So yeah, it's a rule, but sometimes it just doesn't make sense in this instance. And so I'm going to blaze right through it and I'm going to win. So consider, sometimes we got to forget how things have always been done. We've got to forget what the rules are supposed to be that are supposed to dictate what makes good sense when actually it doesn't, right? If it doesn't make, in practicality, good sense, then we've got to sit down and forget what we've always said and say, hey, we've changed. Now, I will tell you, I've worked with other business people that hate when I change it. Hey, I thought that was the rule. Yeah, it is, but I've thought about it. I've lived it, and it sucks. So it's time to forget it. Let's rewrite it. Okay? So that's growing top-line growth. How does that grow top-line growth? Because it's limiting our ability to create and be innovative. So what's another thing we could forget? Well, I tell you one is for sure, and this is one challenge for our own organization, but we've got to forget old world methods for recruiting, hiring, motivating, and keeping good people. This would be a whole nother great podcast, but I know people are struggling to hire, how to motivate people, and keep good people. Now, for me, this is just being a good people person, but for some reason, the flavor of the day is everybody wants to go, oh, millennials. I get so tired of hearing people complain about millennials. Dude, you know what? Millennials are fucking awesome. They're fun, right? They're like we used to be with technology in their hands. And they want money faster, right? Now, sometimes you got to slow them down. What's wrong with somebody who wants more money? Nothing. So how do you motivate somebody who wants more money? Set a clear goal on how they go get it. But the old world methods, guys, they don't work. I'm sorry, they don't. And even I've had to change. I can't stand not showing up on time. So I've had to evolve. And what does that mean anymore? If someone gets you the 8-hour work day in and they get their job done, is it okay? So, and I'm not trying to get off on topic, but we sometimes have to just forget old world methods, right? And then another one is forgetting everything that made us successful at one time and realizing that might not be the ticket in today's world. I hate when a guy go, well, do you know who I am, where I used to work? That's what we used to do. Well, that's great. What the hell does that have to do with today's world, right? What does it have to do with today's world? If you're one of those people that just says, oh, well, where I used to work, where we were successful, well, why aren't you there anymore, right? One thing I don't want to do is just sit around and tell everybody what I used to do. Fuck that. I want to tell everybody what I'm going to do, that I haven't done yet, that I'm dreaming to do. And I don't care if they go back in the back and smoke a cigarette or walk around in the front of the dealership and go, man, Terry's an idiot. You heard what he's going to try to do? I don't care, because at least they're talking about what I'm going to try to do, as opposed to outside going, man, does Terry really think that he's still the man? That was like 5 years ago, and then all of a sudden it becomes 10 years ago and 15 years ago. No one cares. A good friend of mine once drove me by a cemetery and said, you know what's in there? And I've never forgotten this image. A bunch of people who thought they were never replaceable, right? Think about that. A lot of people think they're irreplaceable. So we can't grow our company on the top line without an eraser sometimes. Sometimes we have to forget bad decisions. We have to forget where we came from. We need to forget all the things that we think is the way it's supposed to be, because the world is evolving and changing, right? Ask the Amish if electricity is going to matter, right? So what's today's modern Amish is those that are still hanging on to AOL accounts and telling kids that they have no business playing Fortnite. Well, get over it. They're playing Fortnite. So figure out how to make it part of today's world and become successful. So as crazy as it may seem and sound, we must forget much of what we know to grow our company to its fullest potential. And that's what we're after. If we're going to grow our dealership to our fullest potential, sometimes we got to forget a lot of what we know, and we got to evolve. And that means from the top line as well as the bottom. Okay? Again, we're after that top line growth, because we know darn well, I hope it's coming across, you can't shrink your way into greatness. So the third point I came up with as I was doing this and putting this podcast together was the last one. I wanted to challenge you and ask you a question. And this is an important one, and I kind of hit on the second one, but are you a talent-based enterprise, right? How's the talent at your dealership? Do you put a premium on attracting, developing, and keeping superbly talented people, right? We're not just after good people. And then how do you keep them in your organization, right? So sometimes that means you got to pay the price, right? Not cutting your way. Oh, I want a cheap guy. Well, guess what? With cheap guy, you get cheap results, right? All you guys out there buying a Bluetooth speaker, or the furniture. I'm tired of buying the cheap shit. I know I want something that holds up and lasts longer. We all do it in our adult life as we get older, right? Well, how come we're not doing it with our businesses and dealers? Why are we trying to be cheap instead of keeping and attracting the most superbly talented people of all time? Right? This year, the New York Yankees bring Stanton on and paying him crazy money. Why are they paying crazy money? Because he's superbly talented. Right? So why aren't we in our businesses seeking superbly talented people? There's a reason they make the money they do at other dealerships and other businesses, because they deliver. Right? They're the free agent. Right? We all want our favorite sports team to make a free agent move and get the best person. Why aren't we doing it at our dealers? Why aren't we going after? Well, if I hear someone in town has a better salesperson, guess what? I'm going to find out where they eat, and I'm going to bump into them in a restaurant. How happy are you? Because there's a chance my competitor might not be doing what it takes to get them. So we got to quit hiring cheap guys. Yes, it might bring bottom line growth, But I'm telling you right now, it's a recipe for destruction. It's a recipe for failure. It's a recipe for a dealership business to go out of business. Cheap people, you know what I will tell you about cheap people? They rarely have the energy, the drive, the desire, the innovation, or the spirit to grow your dealership or company from the top line, which is what we're after. Cheap people, you know what? They're nice folks. They just want to get by. They want a job. I don't want people in my organization that want a job. I want to see an employee get a brand new car because they better their life. I want to hear a guy in the back go, man, this is awesome. All of a sudden I'm going to buy a house because I'm making more money. I want to hear that. If I hear a guy or gal just show up, want to smoke a couple cigarettes, not picking on smokers, but that's another podcast, but just wants to get by because they're cheap, they're nice people. They're not who I want to go to battle with. They're not who I want to go to war with and grow in a business or dealership. I want people that want nice things, right? How do you think you get nice stuff? You go deliver. You grow the top line, not the bottom line. So we got to start, guys, we've got to start seeking people who think like owners, don't we? Not just employees. We want people who can think and create and will add real value to our organization, right? And I've got one right now. Even though I'm a small agency, I've got guys that add real value to my organization. I'm walking into my agency and they're telling me about shit that's changing that I don't even know. Should be embarrassing and say, oh man, you're losing your touch. No, I'm surrounding myself with people who make me better, right? And that's why my agency is, at the moment, growing at the top line. Your dealership would be no different if you surround yourself with the best people and quit trying to expense yourself to success. You can't shrink your way to greatness, folks. Sorry, can't do it. Right? So my question is today, the podcast, have you fallen prey to any of these short-term, short-sighted strategies? Give it some thought, right? And hopefully I've given you some thoughts to where you could get better and become a better business and dealership and start focusing on that top-line growth. I will tell you that most companies, from time to time, can't figure out why they've leveled off. We've all done that. Man, we were so good. This actually just happened on my last dealership visit. I was in there, and it was kind of funny to ask them. They're like, man, it was glaring what they've changed. So here's the deal. They're a buy here, pay here dealer, and they've leveled off. They used to, 3-4 years ago, we used to sell a lot more cars. We're just not selling what we used to. And when I was out there, I noticed they started hanging prices on all their cars. Well, guys, everybody knows a buy here, pay here car. Those people are not buying because of price, right? Like they charge more because of the interest, and people understand they're an older car; they put more in service. So when you're asking $11,000 and $12,000 for a car that you could Google on the internet in seconds and see that it's being sold for $7,000 and $8,000, again, they're not taking advantage of people. They're selling it that way because it's a higher risk loan and they have to make money, right? And I said, hey, why do you hang those? I don't know why. They told me they got tired of people asking. They put the prices on there because they got tired of people asking what the price of the car was. And we just thought this was easier. I said, how long ago did you guys start that process? Oh, about 2-3 years ago. I said, that's funny. So now you got so tired of people asking you, you found a way for no one to ask you about the price of a car. and they almost, they kind of wanted to argue with me. And I'm just like, sometimes you got to forget, like I said, in that how or why you got there and rethink it. All right, it made perfect logical sense when you did it. I'm sure it did. We all do things in our business and dealers that you can't even remember why you did it, but you know it made good sense at the time, and that's fine. Don't belittle it. But then sometimes you got to revisit and say, why are we doing this? So we don't want to fall prey to these short-sighted strategies, guys. And if your dealership or business is leveled off, think about these things. Are you trying to cut expenses to grow? I want you to talk about these things. Because I want you to become vibrant, meaningful, and start focusing on top-line growth. I promise you, if 80 to 90% of your energy is in top-line growth, the bottom line will take care of itself. Okay? It just will. Remember, you can't shrink your way into greatness. And if your goal in business is not to be truly great, why bother doing business at all? That's my question. Think about that. If your goal in business is not to be truly great, big time, why bother doing business at all? Again, that's our podcast today. I hope it made some sense to you. I want to hammer home, you can't shrink your way into greatness, guys. You can't high-five shrinking, right? We want to high-five growth, top-line growth. All right? If you apply some of these strategies and some of the things we talked about and give it some time in your management team, all the way down to every part of your organization, every department, start thinking about how you can go for it. Ask your people, how can we become bigger? How can we become better? And let's start focusing on that top line growth, because I'm telling you, energy is a force multiplier, right? Positive energy is a force multiplier. And let's go get it. We can do it. Make it a great week. I want to remind you to keep downloading these podcasts. That means a lot to me. I love sharing my inner thoughts of what I've done in my own life, and I've got a long way to go. I learn as I do these, guys. These thoughts, provoking things, man, it challenges me to think and revisit what I'm doing. And I know I'm becoming a better business person because of it. Share it. Bring a friend to Big Time Thinking. I'm not going to give up on this. I hope you like it. Again, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify. Share the word. Give us the ratings. We need them. We can't do it without you. Guys, go out there, grow your business. Remember, you can't shrink your way into greatness. I want you to have big time thinking, and remember, you want to be big time every time.